Baby for Hody ain't straight black pride, brothers and sisters. This is your brother DC Radical One with another episode of The Center. You can check us out at otwtube.com. That's otwtube.com, where all the controversial content that gets taken down from YouTube, that's where it goes. Also, you can listen to The Center at onthewakeupradio.com. That's onthewakeupradio.com. And you can also check out On the Wake Up Radio on various outlets where you listen to your podcast. Uh First of all, can y'all hear me? Because brother, you got ripped off says he think they're messing with the stream early, which would be interesting. Um Before we get started on tonight's topic, I want to remind you all, and let's see if I can make this bigger. All right, I want to remind you all that the sixth annual Dr. Chancellor Williams Day celebration is upcoming. The gravesite ceremony will be Saturday, December 24th, 2022 at 12 noon Eastern Standard. Well, I guess it's Eastern time. It's the Eastern Standard Time, yet one of those. And it will be at Lincoln Memorial Cemetery, 4001 Suitland Road, Suitland, Maryland. Section O, Lot 618, Grave 5. And for those who have never, as I try to figure out once again why my phone is making noise when it's not supposed to be. For those who have been to, for example, the Malcolm X celebration that happens at his birthday at the gravesite, what we do with Dr. Chancellor Williams Day is something very similar. We understand that Dr. Chancellor Williams is not as noted, not as notable a figure in history as Minister Malcolm X. And so we decided that we felt that his work was noteworthy. We felt that his work was life-changing, and we felt that his work was essential for Black people to have an understanding of how we got here. And so we decided then to do this annual gravesite ceremony. We've been doing it for, I think, since 2017. I'm pretty sure. The first time we did it was at night. You know, it's kind of hard to get Black people to show up at night at the graveyard. You know how that goes. And then we've been doing it during the day ever since. I've been doing it for the last, think about the last 3-4 years or so. And it's worthwhile coming out. One of the things that we don't really do, in my opinion, enough is we don't call upon our ancestors. We don't honor our ancestors enough. And so this is one of the ways that we do that. And since we're here in the DC area, Dr. Chancellor Williams is buried in this area. And so we honor him every year. The second part of that honoring is every year I do a BB40, Straight Black Pride through Sister Vanessa. I do a lecture, Africa versus Everybody lecture. Obviously, this lecture was inspired by Dr. Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. And so what I have done over the years, I have looked at the various enemies of Black people. I'm laughing at brother, you got ripped off in the chat. The various enemies of Black people around the world. I didn't put them in rank order, or I haven't put them in rank order. It's a thought though. And we just go through and look at our history with these various peoples before they straight Black Pride, the brother Kevin. Also, I got a question too. Are you all receiving the notifications when the live stream is about to begin or before the live stream begins? I just would like to know that. If one thing you can do is when you hit the notification bell button, make sure you hit it set to all, because there's a way to hit it and it won't go to all, and then they won't notify every time. Also, is it if you follow me on Instagram, I make the announcement on Instagram. So that lecture, the Africa versus Everybody lecture, that will be December 31st, 2022, 2 p.m. at the SBPM headquarters, um, which is at 6490 Landover Road, Cheverly, Maryland, 20785. The tickets are $20, and the lecture will be live streamed. So, again, the graveside ceremony is on the 24th, which I guess is Christmas Eve for those who celebrate. And then New Year's Eve will be the lecture. New Year's Eve day, of course, to give you all plenty of time to get inebriated and or go out and celebrate in whatever manner you see fit. I know some people go to church. I know some people hide under their bed because they live in their hood, and all types of shenanigans take place. Uh, Personally, I kind of try not to be in the area around midnight. I'll just say it that way. So, Brother Elijah, greetings, Brother Elijah. Brother Elijah said he's getting a notification. Okay, cool. So, we got a small crowd tonight. I did not send out the notifications um, via our what is that thing called? What is that called? Telegraph? You got ripped off. What's the thing called? You know what I'm talking about. But I did not send it via that. I did just post it on Instagram earlier today. I know a lot of times I got to post stuff a day in advance on Instagram because my Instagram is apparently I'm still incredibly shadow banned, which is interesting. The whole Instagram thing is interesting because Telegram. Thank you. I've this shows how much they're messing with my Instagram account. And I think they're just doing little things for fun now. My number count, my follower count, the count that shows up, has stayed within the same 25 to 30 number of followers for probably 3 to 4 months now. Now it'll show me, oh, somebody followed you today, somebody followed you today, somebody followed you today. But then the number will go up, and then suddenly the number will go back to where it was like 2 days before that. So let's say it'll go up to because it's close to 7,000. So it'll go up close to that, and then it'll go down 10. But it'll show 8 people subscribing during the day, but it'll be minus 10 from when it started. And those type of shenanigans, man. It's just funny. It's interesting. Somebody asked me, they like, why they don't delete your account? I said, I don't know. I have no idea, But what we're going to talk about today is because something struck me. I noticed something odd, and we're going to do a case study. And because I think I know what's going on, and you all can, yeah, brother, please, if you can put that on Telegram, send that out. Oh, wait a minute. Sister Finessa. Okay, hold up. It says on IG, when someone sends you a friend request, IG gives them a warning about your behavior and asks if I still want to continue with the request. Interesting. But that's interesting. Because I do have 2 accounts, but one account is closed and one account is open. So is that for the account that's open, or is that for the account that's closed? Because it's interesting, because I don't post on the account that's closed. I'm just saving it for when they close the account that's open. So let me know that, because I did not know that. Black power to Nubian Patah. So I didn't know that. So those are the type of shenanigans that are going on with the Instagram account. And Sister Vanessa says, yes, they did it when in the Century One, they count this open. Well, that's okay. That's interesting. Because people still follow, but no one has mentioned that before. But I guess I never asked. So the subject tonight is it's inspired by a poem, a poet named George Edward Tate. And I was taught this. Um, oh wait, wow, hold up. Brother Newman was also sent your request over a month ago, and I got that warning. Then I was approved a week later. So they filter. Wow, we'll have to have this discussion. We'll have a discussion just on censorship another day because y'all. Wow. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. Okay. But anyway, back to why the subject, which was inspired by a poet, George Edward Tate, who said the enemy must remain in focus as long as the enemy remains, right? And if I'm not mistaken, Baba Rudy has that quote in his book. Um, I can't remember the name of the book, but he has a book where every day there's a quote, a revolutionary quote, for every day of the year. And I'm pretty sure that it's in there. But I learned it, I heard it from somebody else first before I read it in his book. And the reason I brought it up is because of some of the things that I saw taking place. Now, we have to go back in time, right? To when Brother Genie released his book stating who the problem is. So that was July 4th. By the way, real quick, I know I keep making okay, yeah, brother, you got ripped off with the name, and I can't remember how to pronounce the name of the book, so I'm not gonna butcher it. Um, just being completely honest. But if in fact, brother, you got ripped off. If you can put the link for Baba Rudy's material for his books and stuff in the chat, you can put the link for that because Baba Rudy's work is definitely necessary. His book Identity is phenomenal. That's the last book that I read from him. He tends to write books so quick that you can never be sure. Like sometimes he'll say that's the last book, and then he'll have one that he released last week. So, but that's the Identity book was the last book I read. But this book, the Book of Sayings that brother you got ripped off put up in the chat, that's phenomenal too. Something to help keep you on course. But from that, from that quote, I noticed something that's happened recently, and I don't know if people have picked up on what's really taking place. So back in July, Brother Genie released his book. Okay, brother, that's fine. And he stated who the problem is. Now, one thing that in the last 10 years that I have done, thanks to some people who I was studying with, is really look at our enemies and learn to identify enemies, identify tendencies, how they work, how their culture affects what they do, how they treat us, all those type of things. What I call EID, enemy identification. And as you start doing that, you start seeing that that some threats are bigger than others. And Brother Genie went in, as we started researching and trying to figure out what was going on with the pandemic, it became obvious who the biggest threat was. Because you have to ask the question, you're like, well, all right, who could do this and get away with it? Right? That once you throw out, you disregard the accidental lab leak. I'm not saying it wasn't a lab leak, I'm just saying the accidental part. Once you throw that out, you start looking around, you're like, all right, who could do this? And then you look at all of the things that were implemented in the face of it and the different institutions you have to control and all this stuff. And you start going through, you find the names and so forth, so on. It leads you to a source, right? And basically, that's kind of like how the book um came about. And so that's been out since the summer. And he sent it to various people. And you didn't get a lot of buzz, right? As far as like from any known people. Then hold up, let me bring this up. This happens. Right? Kanye West happens. Now we don't know to this day why this happened. Right? All we know is Kanye West woke up one morning, as Dave Chappelle said so brilliantly, and Kanye West says, "I'm a little tired tonight." I'm paraphrasing, or he tweeted, "I'm a little tired tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." Right? Now that was approximately 2 months ago now, because today's the 5th. This article is from the 10th, and they're saying that it happened Saturday, which would have been the 8th, right? So that happens. Kanye West happens. It goes on Drink Champs. He starts talking about how the hats sponsor this music that is detrimental to our people. He talks about them exploiting us, and he talks about they how Hollywood affects people's minds, and all that stuff, right? Kanye West just goes ballistic, and it stirs up all this controversy. And what we saw is, for the first time that I can remember, to be completely honest, since for the first time in probably 30 years, I'm gonna say, because I'm trying to remember when the book came out. For the first time since The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews came out, so almost 30 years, a public discussion of the relationship between Black people in America and the hats erupted publicly, right? And when it erupted, you started, as it went on, you started to see more and more Black people weigh in on it. And to be honest, I thought it would. I was like, a couple of weeks it'd blow over. And then I guess maybe a week after, or whatever it was, the Kyrie thing happens, which was such a overreaction by the hats, and it backfired, being completely honest, because in the way the world is now, and how quickly stories change, and how the media can change the topic, and so forth, so on. If they hadn't jumped on Kyrie, they wouldn't have gotten backlash, right? Because Kanye West, even though he's a popular entertainer, he's not, he's known for making statements and some somewhat erratic behavior, and you can make him look bad, and you can isolate him, and you can just make Black people be like, yeah, whatever. But when they attack Kyrie, right, suddenly Black men especially started saying, "Oh, hold up. Let's have a discussion on this. Let's have a discussion about our relationship. Let's have a discussion on the music. Let's have the discussion on the exploitation of the artists. Let's have a discussion on these artists getting killed. Let's have a discussion on who owns these sports teams, and how black people are portrayed in Hollywood, and so forth and so on. And so it inspired a lot of people. And then it opened up a space for people who had already been studying, and people who had already read had already read Secret Relationship, books 1 and 2 and 3, which deals with the Leo Frank case and how the ADL was founded, right? And then next thing you know, people making TikToks about the ADL because the ADL comes out and says something. So black people making TikToks about the ADL, like, hey, the existence of the ADL comes about because the ADL sided with a pedophile who raped a little white girl, and white people got him and strung him up. And the ADL was born out of that case, the Leo Frank case. And black people found this out, even though the book has been out by probably a couple of years now, because I know I've had it over a year. And they found this information out. They're like, oh, this what y'all defending? This what y'all about? And start putting that up. And so you start seeing this war, right? And then what did they do? Because they figured they could attack and isolate him, they started getting the Negroes to attack Kyrie, right? So we see Shaq and Barkley, they attack him. He's an idiot, this and that. And of course, these dudes is wearing dresses. I mean, they got commercials wearing dresses, TV shows, and Shaq was in some movie with Kevin Hart with some questionable behavior, right? So they brought the Negroes out. Now remember, and we rehashed this before, but Kyrie just put out a tweet. So something that happens, and I wanted to load the clip, but I couldn't use the clip. But something interesting happened that no one talks about because no one knew. When it came time for Kyrie to come back, right? There were a group of rabbis, like hundreds of them, who were going to block the I can't remember the state, but the stadium in Brooklyn. Anybody know the stadium in Brooklyn where the Nets play? And I've actually been in the place. That's why it's so hilarious. I can't remember what it is. I can picture it. I've been in it. I've been in there to see boxing matches. But the rabbis were going to block the stadium to protest Kyrie and try to block him from playing that night when he was supposed to be reinstated. The part that they didn't talk about, right, was that the Hebrew Israelite brothers, I believe it's Israel United in Christ, IUIC, and there's a good interview with them, and at of all people, Jason Whitlock, but he had a good interview with the brother, but it was about 2 hours long. Barclays saying, "Thank you, brother Barclays." That's it, right? So they interviewed the brother from IUIC, and what the brother said is what took place was that the rabbis, because I don't know if y'all seen that video, you see all these Jewish dudes, right, with their black hats and all, their black outfits and all this, and they all at one place, and there's just a boatload of them, like hundreds. Those were the ones that were supposed to show up at Barclays. What happened was IUIC showed up first and were marching down the street. I believe Barclays is on Atlantic Ave, and they had hundreds of brothers out there, and the brother said that when the rabbi saw IUIC out there marching strong, they just kept the buses rolling. They stopped, look, there ain't want no smoke, and they kept it moving. And brother, Reed was able to do his thing or whatever took place after that, right? But that goes to show the level that this conflict now between black people and the hats has come, because the hats plan to come out in force and do something they never do, was come out in physical force. They haven't done it since the JDL days, right? Jewish Defense League. And so they were basically going to get ready for a physical confrontation, not expecting the brother to have the physical backup that he had when he said, I'm not worried about it because I got an army behind me. And then suddenly what happens? An army shows up. You know what I'm saying? Ready for the smoke. And one thing that everybody knows about religious black people, everyone knows this. If you get black men who believe in any divinity with all their heart, they are willing to kill and die with, no hesitation. It's just a fact. Hey, everybody in the world knows this. If you get black men to believe in any divinity, any religious ideology, and that ideology doesn't teach turning the cheek and stuff like that, oh yeah, those brothers will kill and die at a moment's notice, right? I mean, NOI's perfect example from go back in the 60s, right? We got a lot of those stories. So that took place. That amount of tension, that shows the amount of tension to the point where we're almost to the point of physical confrontation between black people in America and the hats. And then suddenly something happens. And that's going to be the point of the discussion, because I had to lay all that out, right, to show you where we were. And then we get to the part where the enemy must remain in focus while the enemy remains. Because there's one way that there was only one way that you could get black people at the time off of this hat discussion, because it's been opened up, and now all of a sudden black people are studying and reading, and people putting up information, and people are questioning things, and like, hey man, we're going to, they talking about the Holocaust, but what about what they did to black people? And hey man, what about this stuff over here with this FTX? Oh, there's some hats in that. And hey, this Balenciaga and this pedophilia, there's some hats in that. And black people just going through piece by piece by piece. And then something happened, right? And at first I didn't think anything of it. Something happened. And I don't know, do I have the picture? Hold on. Let me make sure I got the picture. What happened was this picture came out, right? So in the midst of black people leaning on the hats every day, this picture comes out. Now, when it first happened, I didn't think anything about it other than I found the thing that I noted, or the first thing that I thought about was interesting was I heard about it the day before Thanksgiving. What happens on Thanksgiving every year? Every year, Thanksgiving, Dallas Cowboys play. Usually, I think usually, I guess what's the middle game now? Because now they got 3 games. So the 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever the time the game actually starts. That happens every year, which means the Cowboys are on national TV and everybody sees it every year, and their brand is up, and everybody knows about it. Even people that don't know anything about football. If you go to grandma's house or your mother's house for Thanksgiving, your father, your uncle, somebody has a game on. You ask them who playing, what's the score, and back in the day when I was young, you wanted to sit in the room with the men and do what the men were doing, which was watching football. So If there's any time that you want to say anything about the Cowboys, positive or negatively, the week before, or especially the few days before the Cowboys play on Thanksgiving, it's the best time to get it out there, right? So this comes out, and it stirs up, of course, it stirs up controversy, because in this picture is Jerry Wayne. I think it is his first name Gerald. Anyway, Jerry Wayne Jones, and he's in Little Rock, Arkansas. While white people are trying to stop the desegregation of schools, right? In the picture, I think they said he's 14 years old. That's an interesting historical note. But my first question was, hold up. Why now? I mean, he's been in the public spotlight for 30 years because he's bought the team in the late 80s. Yeah, it had to be the late 80s. Either 88, 89. And he's been a public persona since then. So for 30 years, this picture has been wherever it's been. But as soon as black people get to focus on the hats, your big racial story pops up. And it surrounds the, if either the second or third, first or second most popular, as far, or maybe not popular, but sports franchise that's worth the most in the United States. I know them and the Yankees are, as far as popularity and money and all that stuff, are neck and neck, right? So the owner of one of the most popular teams in sports is, quote unquote, exposed for being racist. Now here's the thing, right? Jerry Jones is 80 years old, I guess, something like that. He was born in California and spent his youth in Arkansas. We already know Jerry Jones is racist. Right? This ain't no surprise. He's living in Arkansas in the 50s. Everybody in Arkansas in the 50s is racist. If we take the emotionalism out of it, no one should be surprised, right? Now, I read the article that said that he was there out of curiosity. And maybe he was, but that don't stop him from being racist. You know what I'm saying? That does not stop him from being racist. Saying I was there out of curiosity. You know what I'm saying? He could have been curious to say, wonder if they're gonna stop them ends from coming to my school. That's curiosity. Peace to Brother Crow. But the thing about it is, like I said, it was notable historically, but it shouldn't be a surprise to black people, right? You know, and then you had the whole flag controversy. But let's think about this for a moment. Jerry Jones has a job description that says owner on it. And he was born in the 40s and grew up in the South. And we're acting like we're surprised. Like, oh my God. So if you look at it, you're like, man, okay, this could have been exposed. But it wasn't. Rather, you got ripped off, says the spot they built the new Cowboy Stadium in was old strip bars and liquor stores behind a Walmart off West Rogers in Arlington, Texas. You know, want to know what's funny about that is that what you described there, except for the part about the Walmart, pretty much fits the description of where they built the baseball stadium in DC. And brother, you got ripped off says, after Katrina, I moved there and watched the stadium get built. Wow. That must have been some type of, that must have been a heck of an experience. Um, and so this came up, right? And then the next thing I heard about was this. And this is when I stopped to think. Because I thought, to be honest, I thought that the Jerry Jones controversy would be bigger than it was. But then the next thing happened. Sylvester Stallone hurls N-word at paparazzi. Right? Now, this had happened before the Jerry Jones thing, but I didn't hear about it until then. And so here's my thought. My thought is this, and y'all tell me what y'all think. Because this isn't going to be a long live stream. I'm not going past 9:30 on this. But this is a case study. My thought was, okay, Sylvester Stallone is because he's one of the more popular actors in Hollywood over and has been over multiple generations because he's played the same character for a set of movies starting in the 70s into the 80s. And then he played that same character again in when the first Creed movie come out, like 2018 or something like that. But anyway, the first Creed movie. All right. So he's portrayed this character over the years. Multiple generations of Black people are familiar with him, and he somewhat endeared himself to them. Now, I admit, I rooted for Clubber Lang, aka Mr. T, and Rocky. Was that Rocky 3? I rooted for Clubber Lang. Rooted for the bad guy. Okay, 2015. Thank you, brother. Right? But Rocky. I knew Rocky. I knew Rocky growing up, knew the song and all that stuff. It's part of my childhood. Apollo Creed, Rocky, Mickey, whatever his wife is. And one of my favorite lines in all of movie history is the part where Mr. T says that Rocky, he wants to fight Rocky. And because Rocky, I think, is having a retirement ceremony or something. And before they straight back fired the brother I. Allen, and he said they didn't send a notification to him. Thank you, brother. But Mr. T says to Rocky's wife, somebody help me out with her name. And brother, you gotta rip off smack the wrench on the the chat invaders here, if you can. We got some chat invaders, but it's funny. Mr. T says, say woman, since your old man ain't got no heart, why don't you come on over to my place tonight and I'll show you a real man. Y'all remember that line? Adrian, right? Adrian, thank you, brother. And Black Power to Buddha Upon One. That's one of my favorite lines in movie history. Like any movie I've seen, that's one of my favorite lines because it was so bold and audacious, and it was so calculated by Mr. T because he knew if he disrespected the man's woman, disrespected Adrian, now all of a sudden Rocky gonna grow some cojones and want to fight. So we know Rocky. But seeing these two stories back to back of two major whites who are somewhat beloved or elite, or maybe just their team or their movies or what, they produce something that has been accepted into Black culture. The Cowboys and Rocky. And see these stories come up back to back. Here's what the conclusion I came to, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Studying Zionism. We got somebody advertising for adult content in the chat, bro. I just want you to smack that. Studying Zionism. One thing the conclusion I come to is they never want the focus to be on them. That's why they throw out the anti-Semitic thing. Like whenever any people turn around and say, because black people get talked about, and what's weird, well, not weird, it's intentional, but of course now seemingly everyone talks about white supremacy all of a sudden, right? We've been talking, Dr. Weldon was talking about it 30, 40 years ago. Nobody used the term. Now all of a sudden we hear it in, everywhere. And other people get talked about. But no one ever wants to talk about, Zionism. You can never say anything about the hats. And so my conclusion is simply this. This was how the quote unquote woke or conscious people post something and they always say, oh, this is a distraction. This is a distraction. Let them tell everything's a distraction, which is kind of true. Everything is a distraction, but they kind of go overboard with it. And I just laugh. I'm like, bro, everything can't be a distraction. Not everything. In this case, these two stories were simply a way, in my opinion, to take the heat off the hats and get us back focused just on the general racism that exists in society. Because we were so focused on the hats and especially as black men, that the danger was that could be something simply that we could rally around, was the hats. Let's think about it, and let's go back there. Good old Jera. Where's Jera? Let's go back to Jerry. Right? Let's think about this, right? And I thought about this. I said, here's the ironic thing. If you're pro-black, you actually agree with the old Jerry Jones. He's like, what? Bro, what you talking about? Hey, think about it, right? Let's say, we're not going to accept Jerry Jones' explanation that he was just curious. We're not going to accept that. But let's say, for example, he was against integration. He's like, hey, I don't want to integrate. Well, I don't want to integrate. Right? And think about it. I don't want to integrate. We straight black pride. We want black men to be with black women and produce black children. We don't want our children running around socializing too much with non-black children because they haven't developed their black identity yet and they can become confused. How do we know this takes place? We know this takes place because we've had 40 plus years of integration. If you look at it, we know, if we look at our identity now and how we act now, we didn't act this way before integration or in the early stages of integration. The things that used to be quote unquote white people stuff is stuff that we do now. I'm old enough to remember when black people didn't get tattoos. In fact, here's what's so hilarious about that. When Dennis Rodman was getting tattoos all over himself, he was a weirdo. When Tupac got a tattoo, it's like, oh, okay. When Allen Iverson got a tattoo, then he popularized it for everybody. But Dennis Rodman was considered a weirdo, and Dennis Rodman got the behavior from the white rockers that he was hanging with. My generation, we looked at him, and I'm younger than him. We looked at him as a weirdo. Next thing you know, 10 years later, a bunch of people got tattoos. 10 years after that, everybody got tattoos. But it's not a black cultural thing. It's not an African cultural thing. right? But just this example just goes to show how one dude hanging with white folks can alter our whole culture slowly but surely, just by them being a celebrity and them influencing a bigger celebrity that's closer to us. And then next thing you know, here we are, and everybody got tattoos. Now that's a simplistic way of looking at it, but that's like literally what happened. Because I remember, right? I've been around for the whole process. And it just goes to show how quick just that little bit of integration of Dennis Rodman not feeling like he was accepted by black people, hanging out with white folks, and then he bring white people stuff over here, and here we are, right? Let's look at another example. I remember when colored hair was just some weird white people stuff, right? You look, see white people, and they change the haircut, and you like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? You just look and said, okay. Yeah. Then next thing you know, the first person I remember was it was a rapper named Kwame. He wore polka dots and he had a high top fade and he had like a blonde streak in it, right? And of course, I was a teenager. Like, man, who is this dude? This dude is soft. Now, mind you, soft in the 80s, when I was a teenager, I mean, being called soft, those are basically fighting words. Being masculine was the premium on being masculine. I can't even express to you, right? I can't express to you how how important it was as a young man to be masculine, to walk like a man, talk like a man, right? You, I mean, there was no question of any of the stuff that's going on now where we're just totally confused. But if you look at it again, we could go through, we could just pick out an example of an example and example and example of different stuff that happens in degeneracies and backwards thinking. And I mean, we talked about feminism, right? We talked about that what last week? Again, integration. The sisters start going to school with the European females. The sisters started hanging around with European females. Then next thing you know, a couple of generations later, sisters just grow up just hating black men. Integration. Tattoos all over the place. Integration. So we mad at Jerry Jones for being against integration when we against integration. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. It's another thing that's hilarious. And I thought about this because it was so ironic. I said, man, this is so weird. When it's a weird time. And when I have this discussion, people are gonna be like, yo, what? As racist as Jerry Jones, I'm sure is because he was alive in the 50s. Jerry Jones made a business decision and took a position where he is forced to make young black men millionaires every year. Think about that. Every year, he's forced to make young black men millionaires because you can't win in the NFL. Not that they've been doing a lot of winning, but past, at least not when playoffs come around. But you get my point. You can't win in the NFL without making young black men millionaires. He made Michael Irvin a millionaire. Michael Irvin still makes money off of being a Cowboy. Made Emmitt Smith a millionaire, even though somebody else on the team had to basically tear up the whole locker room to get it done. Right. And some of the new people, Zeke, and some of the folks, a million. In fact, what you got? 53 men on the roster. I'm sure at least a good 20 of those guys are black millionaires. The question becomes if he and other white racists and the hat racists, because there's a lot of hat owners, right? Like, for example, the Commanders, the local team, that their owner's a hat, Dan Snyder, and he's been involved in all types of shenanigans. It's so much stuff I can't, I don't even want to go into it. If they're forced to make our sons, cousins, nephews millionaires, what are we doing to prepare them, those young men, to utilize those millions of dollars that these racists are forced to pay them for the benefit of the community? Yeah, brother, Dak is a mulatto, and I think he got a white wife. So my stance on mulattoes is simply who they choose to be with is who they choose to be with. If you understand what I'm saying, meaning if they choose to their mate, they choose to mate white, they're white. They choose to mate black, the child is black. You know what I'm saying? But I gauge the mulattoes loyalty as much as they can be loyal, because you have a dual identity. But I judge their loyalty based upon their mate selection, because they can go either way. Right. So that's a question, because we understand, and this is something we don't do. I just thought about it. We got to stop lying to our children, man, that racism is over, or racism is about emotions, or racism about whatever, any of that stuff that we teach you, or it's going to end by loving people. Yeah, we definitely got to stop teaching that. Racism is about power, right? It's about emotions when there's no power involved, but when it's a power dynamic, you know what I'm saying? That's when it's really relevant. But again, every European that's still alive from the 50s, we just have to assume is racist. And this is just basic analysis based upon the history of America, the culture of America, and the reality of the psychology of people. But if we focus on this, right, what happened in 1950, we'll miss what's happening in 2022, which is what? Every day, hundreds of people die mysteriously after having been forced to take the jab or coerced into taking the jab. Right? Every year, the World Economic Forum lays out a plan, implements that plan, and brings us closer to the one world government, which will be ruled by the hats. At this point, right now, millions of dollars of our tax dollars is going overseas to Ukraine to make what Zelensky called a greater Israel. And Ye and Kyrie are still being attacked. And the small hat owned record labels are still putting out people like Glorilla. And she's still running around singing F and F. And our daughters are looking at her videos, learning how to twerk and, learning how to say the N word and B's and all that. And Nicki Minaj is still out, and Cardi B. And I don't even know any of the male rappers. I only know the female rappers because I had to study them for one of my lectures. But the male rappers are out doing drill music and talking about shooting other black people, right? And we're still getting movies like Wakanda Forever and the Woman King, and the psychological assault on black people continues ad nauseum. And the hat still not trying to raise up off of no reparations for their part in our Holocaust. And now you understand why the title of this discussion is "The Enemy Must Remain in Focus as Long as the Enemy Remains." Does racism exist? Yes. Are most white people that we know racist? Yes. Are most white people that we don't know racist? Yes. Because here's the reality of the situation. Again, I say this about power. The reality of the situation is no white people anywhere want to be in the position of black people anywhere. And the brother says that no one is talking about the RSV infection, which I know is here in Denver, multiple big cities in Texas and Louisiana. Must be the newest WHO released bio agent. Says those jabbed and not jabbed are getting it. But brother, you're gonna have to send me that and send me that information, excuse me, so I can do a radical report on it, because I hadn't heard that either. But I wanted to show it was one more article because I wanted to because all of this can be encompassed around one singular black celebrity, and because he's taken multiple stances on this whole controversy, and because he's so he's so integral to quote unquote the culture, and he's such a big phenomenon amongst our people for two generations. Let's bring up our good friend. Bring him up. LeBron James. It's interesting because when I brought up this article, Steve Nash was not here in the article. So I was for Steve Nash for getting fired because he just wanted to ignore the whole situation. And LeBron James, remember, his first public comments was Kyrie Irving caused some harm by sharing posts. Right? That's what LeBron said. Now, LeBron and Kyrie played together in Cleveland, I believe. Right? And let me see if I can find if they got the direct quote in here, because I thought they had the direct quote. Well, basically, he's like, his comments cause some harm, but he can't speak for 450 players. Now, this was a quote I found interesting, right? He says, I don't stand on the position to harm people when it comes to your voice or your platform or anything. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is, how tall you are, what position you're in. If you are promoting or soliciting or saying harmful things to any community that harms people, then I don't respect it. I don't condone it. I don't condone any hate to any kind, to any race, to Jewish communities, to black communities, to Asian communities. You guys know where I stand. That's what LeBron said, right? So LeBron says he's against hate. You guys know where I stand. Let's see where LeBron stands. Let's see if I got. This is where LeBron stands. Hello. LeBron James attends Jeffrey Schottenstein's wedding, May 22nd, 2022. This is where LeBron stands. Let's read this article. Los Angeles Lakers player LeBron James was spotted at the wedding of Jeffrey Schottenstein and Ariella occur on Sunday afternoon in New York City. Schottenstein, the son of billionaire American Eagle chairman and CEO Jay Schottenstein, is the founder of the clothing brand Tacma. Never heard of it, which James has been spotted wearing. The Columbus-based Schottenstein family has long been equated with James, an Akron native, who brought the Cleveland Cavaliers their first NBA championship in 2016. Okay, yeah, that part, somewhat interesting. Oh, by the way, this is courtesy of the Jewish Insider. As guests mingled, the 6'9" James was seen entering the wedding venue with Rabbi Yoshiyahu Yusuf Pinto, a Moroccan-based rabbi and founder of Shuva Israel. Pinto, who counts the Schottenstein family among his followers, has reportedly offered spiritual advice to James in the past. James also reportedly gave a 6-figure donation to Shuva Israel. All right. So I think we understand where LeBron stands. Right? Sister Vanessa says black folks had to twist LeBron's arm to get him to even say something about the murder of Tamir Rice, yet he had no problem coming to the aid of the oppressor. And of course not. Now, here's what's deep, right? LeBron, the former Cowboys owner, then goes on to say, hey, man, why aren't y'all talking more about this Jerry Jones thing? That's what let me know. Oh, okay, I see what this is. I see what this is. That's what made me say, yeah, I'm right. Think about it, right? LeBron says, I don't condone hate, but he makes sure to specify against Jewish people. He makes sure to specify that, right? So he getting on Kyrie. Then when the Jerry Jones thing comes up, he points out to the media, hey, how come y'all not blowing this Jerry Jones thing up? At first, I was like, oh, okay. He taking that. Then I said, hold up. Hold up. He just attacked Kyrie and then tried to ease back off of it before they 7779311. But then he on Jerry Jones. The media trying to blow up this Jerry Jones thing. He adds to it to make it blow up more. Man, this is a hat distraction. That's when I came to that conclusion, right? So I want y'all to tell me in the chat, am I, because this is how I know this is how the hats work. And the timing of everything tells me that not only are we going to see this with, we've seen Rocky, seen Jerry Jones, we're going to see more racial incidents play out if the heat between black people and the hats continues. You're going to see some police murders get blown up because the police murders happen every day, unfortunately. You're going to see other famous people who black people tend to like, some random white people that we tend to like, which I don't even, be completely honest, I don't know who that would be. So it's going to be somebody that's been famous for a while. They're going to dig in somebody's past. They're going to bring that up again. And you're going to see this until black people get tired of leaning on these hats. Now, there's a video I want to tell y'all about to show y'all how concerned they are, but it's on YouTube. I was going to play a snippet of it, but then what I realized is this. If I play it, they'll take down this whole live stream. So, and I was going to try to use the whole fair use. Forget all that. The video is called Why Ben Shapiro is Wrong About Kyrie. Right? And if you part of our Telegram, I believe Brother Genius sent it out. In the video, and it's available here on YouTube. So actually, you could just put it in the search engine on YouTube. In the video, this hat has made this video, and he's taking different clips from different stuff, and he's talking about black nationalists and white nationalists coming to an agreement that the hat's the problem. You say it's a YouTube video I can fairly. I'm not even going to risk it because you say hat too many times and you're risking it. I already got like a pre-strike. Y'all know how I'll play that and I'll disappear for another couple of months. And y'all be like, man, why you keep disappearing? Y'all know what it is. But I appreciate that though. But yeah, y'all can look that up. And in that video, Brother Jenny's in the video. And so I mentioned that video to say that now, because they see that this conflict between us and the hats had almost got to the point of a physical confrontation. Because if they hadn't got off that bus, remember where we started earlier, IUIC wanted to smoke, right? And if it came to a physical confrontation, that would have solidified in the mind of black people. Oh, okay. Especially black men. Okay, these dudes want to take it to the physical. They want to go there. They think they can take it to that level. Oh, okay, nah. And then next thing you know, you would have seen IUIC, and then you would have seen some of the other Israelite brothers up in New York. Then you would have seen the Israelite brothers in other places, and then you would have seen the other religious nationals like the Nation of Islam, because they would have had to come out and be like, "We've been telling y'all about the hats and this and that." And then they would have joined up, and then next thing you know, everybody who claims to be for black people would have had to take a stand against the hats, and then it's really on and popping. And that's what they don't want. Because then if that takes place, then the white nationalists will be like, okay, the black people out in front, we could use them as cover, and we can go and really act a fool and really do stuff. And then they'll think it's a black people because they already got in a physical confrontation with them. And you know how white people get. If they think they can get away with it, they gonna act a fool. So the hats have made these calculations to the point that a hat would publicly put on YouTube, hey, this is the threat. We need to do something. And then we see these things that I've outlined here. And we'll see more of them. And Brother Jimmy said that Small Hat identified him as a black supremacist. See? Has to be watching. The hats are going to put back up Mel Gibson fast. When he was talking about the hats. Yeah, if Mel Gibson, if he does anything notable, yeah, his pass is definitely going up. So I don't think he has any movies or anything. I haven't heard about anything from Mel Gibson in a long time. If he does anything notable, yeah, his quote unquote anti-hat bias, that's going right. We're gonna hear about that immediately. Brother, you got ripped off says it is not ironic that San Fran and Houston are actively using robots for law enforcement. They're getting ready to commit murders. Well, brother, here's the thing about that. Remember how that started. Who was the first person that we heard about with them using robots? Michael Xavier Johnson. Ain't that what they told us? They told us they didn't want no more smoke with him. He talked to the brother, brother tried to talk him down and get out of the place, and he like, nah, I ain't no more talking. So instead of them going in there, they sent in the robot. Just wanted to show that. They sent in the robot. Man, I'm just looking at it. Jewish insider. And Sister Nina say, hats always watching, always working. Right. And and that's why myself, Brother Jeannie, and others, that's why we on the job. Because evil is working 24/7, 365. Like, in fact, even this Balenciaga thing is blowing up. But people haven't really started looking into the history. They looked into the history of the company a little bit, but people haven't started connecting that with the hats yet. But again, the Balenciaga thing, if you look at well, Brother Jenny was talking about in 2017 with Pizzagate, the Balenciaga falls right underneath that. And who was the celebrities that we saw connected with that? Now, while we're talking about black celebrities, let's not forget Jay-Z and Beyonce. Beyonce was in the picture with Marina Abramovic. Lest we forget, right? And Marina Abramovic and her spirit cooking. Which, in fact, let me see if I can find that picture real quick. Because before I close out, I have absolutely no idea how to spell Marina Abramovic's name. But, there's one of them. Here we go. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Wow, that's it right here. Doo, 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 doo. Yeah. Oh, this is funny. And this is old. This is back in 2015. Right? Let's just remember how it works with celebrities and hats. Jay-Z, look at it. Look at this. Face to face, nose to nose. Marina Abramovic. So if you mad about the Balenciaga stuff, and yeah, there you go, right there, brother. You got ripped off there, them and that weird dance and stuff. If you mad about that Balenciaga stuff, check out Marina Abramovic's spirit cooking. We talk about integration, hanging out with weird folks. So, brothers and sisters, I had this discussion with Brother Jeannie. He was like, "Nah, man, you got to talk about that. You got to put that out." I said, "All right," because I had no subject. I had nothing that I wanted to discuss. But when that occurred to me, I said, "Yeah, this is a perfect case study, so people can see how this stuff plays out and how the hats will utilize a distraction, and they're going to try to push up the racial tension that always exists. The racial tension. My favorite CI, who CI7? What'd he do now? Well, you got ripped off. Say I can't leave without talking about CI7. What does CI7 do now? Because I missed it if he did something. But the hats are going to try to push up the racial tension. We're going to see the police murders be advertised because the police murders occur every day. We're going to see random white celebrities be quote unquote exposed for being racist. There's not a lot of Hollywood people that they can expose for being racist because most of them are hats. Yeah, it's amazing how many hats are in Hollywood. It's crazy when you start researching people and you see new people and you don't know who they are and you try to figure out who they are. There's a boatload of hats. You say he came out publicly. I thought he came out publicly before. He came out publicly as a CI. Okay, for those that don't know, Al Sharpton, who I call CI7, I told in one of my lectures, I told Brother Jeannie that if perchance I'm not here, make sure every year when they roll out Al Sharpton to do the civil rights stuff and march across the bridge and all that stuff he do, just tweet out or send out or make a video or whatever to remind people that he's a confidential informant. Because I just got tired of this dude running around acting like he's the national spokesman for black people when he's an informant who tried to set up Asada Shakur. That's who Al Sharpton is. And he's been running around our community since the days of when Attorney Alton Maddox, he's been around him. He's been up in that whole New York scene because Alton Maddox is connected to everybody. Alton Maddox was connected to Dr. John Henry Clark. Alton Maddox was connected to Amos Wilson. Alton Maddox was connected to Dr. Collett. Alton Maddox is connected to Dr. Ben. You name it. If you were a person, of note on the New York Black Power, Black nationalist, Pan-Africanist scene in New York, Alton Maddox was connected to you. He knows you. You know him. If you were any person of note, and Al Sharpton was connected to Alton Maddox while he was CI7. So for those who, for those who want to know why I just seem to have this vendetta against Sharpton, because I think we greatly underestimate the damage that he's been doing to the movement. And he's been rewarded with millions of dollars and a big time organization, and he gets to fly around and diffuse racial tension whenever black people get mad because we've been brutalized. And Brother David Williams says that Steve Coakley exposed Sharpton's connection with the hats. If you have a copy of that, brother, you can email that to me at dc.radical_1@protonmail. And at last I heard, sister, Attorney Alton Maddox is still living. They had suspended his license, so he couldn't even work as a lawyer. And Sister Vanessa says it amazes me how him and Messy Jesse are still allowed to be out here running interference, and being ops. Dr. John Henry Clark said we don't properly deal with our traitors. I'm just quoting what Dr. Clark said. Just a quote that seems appropriate for what's going on. And so quickly before I close out, again, 6th annual Dr. Chancellor Williams Day celebration. The gravesite ceremony will be December 24th, 2022 at high noon at Lincoln Memorial Cemetery, which is at 4001 Suitland Road, Suitland, Maryland, Section O, Lot 618, Grave 5. If you are in the DMV area, or if you will be in the DMV area, you can come out to that. We greatly appreciate it. Ceremony is usually about an hour or so, because a lot of times it'll be cold out there. Just be completely honest. If y'all would like me to go through my files, I know I have filmed one of the previous ones. If y'all would like me to actually edit it, because by the time I edit it, it probably won't be but about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. If y'all would like me to edit it, if the sound quality is good, and put that up on the channel, let me know. I can do that. Also, let me get to that, brother. You got ripped off. Also, the Africa versus Everybody lecture, December 31st, 2022, at the SBPM headquarters, 6490 Landover Road, Cheverly, Maryland, 20785. Tickets will be $20. I'll be sure to announce when the tickets are available. I actually was expecting to get the flyer today. That did not happen. But of course, I could have ordered the flyer earlier. So I cannot blame the people that I paid to make the flyer, because they do great work. And so it is what it is. Also, what I've started to do is I've started to put clips up on YouTube of previous live streams in short sections, because I understand people got short attention spans, and people also don't have an hour and a half and 2 hours out of their day. And so we're going back through and finding what I think are some of the pertinent clips, the relevant clips, and some of the things that people may have missed who are new to the channel, because we have almost 70 new subscribers this month. I believe it's actually like 69, either 68, 69. And so one will be premiering tomorrow, and one will be premiering the day after that. And that is from where we talked about, do Black people need leaders? I thought that both of those clips, when I actually looked at it, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, we definitely need this. So as Vanessa says, if you owe them money, then they don't have short attention spans. Well, I guess I got short attention spans for me. So be sure to check those out. Hopefully the notifications will come out for those. If I am available, I will be watching those. I might watch one of those live with you. And the standard time for those will be 8 o'clock during the week. Also, I'm working on another radical report. Yeah, I forgot. I'm supposed to be doing. Oh man, yeah, supposed to be doing one. I gotta, because I don't know where I saved the article, but I wanted to do one on this recent sex trafficking case that happened in Kansas City. It's probably been about 2 or 3 months ago now, because we're starting to see more and more weird things happening with sex trafficking and our sisters getting kidnapped. And so I wanted to do a radical report on that. No, brother, that's not a live stream. That's a pre-recorded video that's coming up tomorrow. So yeah, I want to do a radical report on that, because I saw some connections between two separate things, and I think kind of answered the question of why these things happen and why they're able to take place. And for the sisters, real quick before I go, please be careful. Please have situational awareness. Please, if you're in a state where it's easy to get armed, because different states got different laws. If you're in a state where you can carry, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of anything strange. I mean, they doing all types of stuff, putting stuff, spraying stuff on people's cars. I mean, it's a whole boatload of stuff. I probably need to do a live stream on it. I really would. If I do, I would really like to bring somebody that's an expert on it, which means I would probably have to find somebody that's in law enforcement, which, yeah, it's going to be much harder than it is easy. I'll see how I make that work. But that'll probably be an upcoming topic, because, it's a big issue. And now the days are shorter. We got more sisters out by themselves. And I'm going to just be completely honest. And the days are coming, if the hats decide to crash the economy, which they may not do as bad, because there's so much of the spotlight on them, that if you crash the economy, then people are going to be looking for answers to who the problem is even more. And we already told them who the problem is, and we can prove to them who the problem is. So they may delay that, or the recession may not be as bad as they were predicting, because the reason they can predict the recession because they're causing a recession, but don't tell nobody that. So just with that, sisters, just be careful out here. I've known some sisters that had some strange incidents happen. So just be aware, have your situational awareness, and protect yourself at all times. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for subscribing. I thank you all for your support for myself, Brother Genie, and Straight Black Pride Movement. And I almost forgot, Brother Genie's birthday was this weekend. I took a couple of pictures. We went out to dinner. I didn't post the pictures. they probably go up on my Instagram stories. So if you're in the Telegram, you can wish Brother Genie a belated happy born day. His born day was this week. We celebrated his born day this weekend. So, but he thanks you all for your support, your well wishes, and all the love and everything that y'all give him, and y'all gave to Straight Black Pride. So with that, I say a BB for Hodier and Straight Black Pride.